Excited to be here today to talk about a very important topic, which is next gen and succession planning and just the general cultivation of junior level talent. And I'm thrilled to be joined by our founder and CEO, Mindy Diamond. Mindy, welcome.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I love this topic.
Absolutely. And you're the perfect person to be joining me here today to talk about this topic, as we are a next gen business ourselves. So I think we can offer some really unique insight and advice and perspective on this topic as well. So let me just set the stage. What we're really talking about here is two distinct things. Number one is the actual succession, the transfer from Gen 1 to Gen 2. But number two, and equally important, is the ongoing cultivation and training of next gen talent and just the general kind of teaming structures. So Mindy, let me ask you, why do you think this topic is important?
Well, it's important for a lot of reasons. One, because there's been a lot of talk in the industry for years about the aging out of the advisor population, the graying of the advisor population, and the lack of succession planning that many senior advisors find themselves in late in their career, the succession crisis. And equally, there's a dearth of next-gen talent. And so it becomes critically important to make sure that when you're lucky enough to identify a next-gen successor, whether that be a family member or otherwise, that you bring them onto the team in the right way.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And we'll talk about this from the perspective of both the next gen and from the senior advisor. Before we do so, let me ask you just a little bit about the timing of this. What's the potential issue with just saying, I'll figure this out in 15 years when I'm approaching retirement? Like, why is this a topic that's really relevant to all advisors, regardless of the stage in the game they're at?
Because I can't tell you how many 60-year-old advisors we get calls from saying, I'm thinking about retiring either through my firm's Retire in Place program, and I can't do so unless I've identified a next-gen successor, and or an advisor anywhere that just says, I'm thinking about retiring at some point, even if it's 10 years from now, and it's time to think about a successor. And the truth of the matter is, the later in your career you wait to solve it, the less likely you are to solve for it, because it's competitive, it's hard, and it's time consuming. And so it's critical to think about it early in the career, so it becomes not just about succession planning, but also about building a business for longevity in the long term.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because it almost feels like a little bit of a disconnect or a dichotomy whereby every firm, every advisor, almost every advisor says something like, I need capacity, I need help with the succession topic, we need better next-gen talent, we need to get younger, but there is a real lack of emphasis and training programs and systems in place to actually help with it. So let me ask you this now, just in terms, before we talk a little bit about the specifics. What are the two ways in your mind that a junior advisor might affiliate with a senior advisor?
Yeah, so that's a really important question, and something that every would-be successor, next-gen prospect needs to think about. There are two ways for a next-gen advisor to associate with the team. Way one is to be what we call part of a vertical team, where they are not given their own production number. Everything that they generate, everybody's rowing in the same direction, and everything they generate rolls up into the senior advisor's production number. And way two is that the next-gen successor or any advisor on the team, everyone has their own production number, so they're building their own business.
Yeah, and I think it's not that one is necessarily better than the other. To the senior advisor, it probably matters less. But from the junior advisor perspective even, I actually think there are some real benefits to the vertical team structure, right? On paper, you would say, well, wouldn't everybody want their own production number? The horizontal structure sounds way better. The vertical structure is a really nice way to learn the business and really get a feel for what does it mean to be an advisor, right? There is definitely a benefit, particularly in the early years, of being on those big vertical teams, and we've seen them as much as 20 or 30 person teams. I think at some point, though, we hear from advisors all the time, the junior advisor in particular, where they have concerns that maybe they've outgrown that a little bit because you feel a little bit like you're kind of building somebody else's legacy or you're building somebody else's dream at the expense of your own. So good pivot point. Let's talk about this now from each of the two perspectives. I will take the junior next-gen perspective. We'll let you handle the elder statesman or senior advisor perspective.
Makes sense.
So from the junior advisor perspective, I think the number one thing is just be really introspective and honest with yourself. you need to ask yourself the right questions in terms of what's my path to partnership? Am I going to earn an increasing part of this split over time? Does the senior advisor have a family member in the business now or in the future that might impact my eventual leadership or position on the team? Do I have a revenue split and or will I in the future? All of these questions, I think you need to be really transparent and honest with yourself, not just once, but often. Every 6 months, take stock because these things change. The other thing is, this should not be a taboo topic. I think junior advisors need to feel safe and comfortable talking about this topic with the senior advisors because it's too important of a topic to get wrong. So Mindy, maybe you could tackle this now from the perspective of the senior advisor.
Yeah, so I think that, there's pros and cons to each of those two approaches. So the pro of building a vertical team is that it's all about ownership and control, right? You control and own every relationship, every dollar of revenue that's generated. But the con is that you're not really investing in the team. I don't know that that structure necessarily focuses or emphasizes building a business for the long term, because the goal of succession is not just so as a senior advisor I can get out, but it's also about building a business, building a legacy, building an enduring business that will maximize enterprise value. And if you don't have the right people on the bus, the right people that are invested in the business and know how to build their own business, the business can't go on.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, is that there is probably a period of time in which this is actually revenue negative. In fact, it's probably costing you time, money, resources as a senior advisor to train a junior advisor. Yeah. But in our view, it is well worth it. It's a stock that will pay dividends in the future for sure.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So this was great. I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today and look forward to the next episode.
Me too.